Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my podcast. Okay, let's jump in. Okay, so the first thing I want to discuss is an article I saw about, factory workers in manufacturing. Okay, so the article is about American wants more U.S. factory jobs as long as they don't have to work them. And I thought that was pretty interesting. And I actually was like, well, let me look at the article because I can guess where they were going with this because I figured the same thing. Okay. And so the article talks about the disconnect between Americans' desire for more manufacturing jobs in the US and their unwillingness to work these jobs. Okay. So it says, while many Americans want to see more factory jobs brought back to the country, they're often not willing to take on the physical labor and less desirable working conditions that come with these jobs. The article suggests that Americans want the economic benefits of manufacturing jobs without having to do the work themselves. So I guess this became a discussion after a social media post went viral with a poll from cato.org, cato.org, for the Financial Times, asking if Americans would be better off with manufacturing jobs, okay? 80% agree, which means the other 20% disagree, okay? The poll also asked if they feel as if they would be better off working a factory job. 25% agreed, 73% disagree. Okay, you see the discrepancy, like if it's good for us versus if we want to do it, okay? And then, of course, the 2% says they were currently actually working a factory job. Okay, so the interesting thing I found with this article is, they mentioned that there are 500 openings for manufacturing roles available in the U.S. 500,000. I'm sorry if I didn't say that. 500,000 roles available. So there isn't exactly a shortage of roles, which is interesting because the Trump administration keeps stressing manufacturing jobs so much that I actually thought there was a shortage. Like I was like, man, all the manufacturing job is overseas, which a majority of the manufacturing comes from overseas because we do get a lot of imports, which is why, our imports is important. And that's why the tariff is messing all that up. So we do get a lot, but we still have a lot of jobs here in the U.S. 500,000 jobs that just sitting there needing to be worked. Hello. Okay. So I guess the disconnect here per the article is how Americans view manufacturing jobs and how we view ourselves. Okay. So the article did make some good points, okay? It says, America was once a world leader in automotive and steel manufacturing, but that has since changed, since the 1980s. That has, gone down. It says the U.S. has shifted to a more knowledge-based economy, which it has, And so that shift, per the article, has left many Americans behind in the cold, which changed, that the changes in the industry changes like that wealth gap, the wealth inequality. So of course the Trump administration was using that, the wealth inequality, the inequality with, the shift in manufacturing and all that stuff. So he's using that as an angle saying, oh, well, this is my way to help the middle class by bringing those jobs back, by giving you your jobs back that, were held by, okay? So he's figuring this is a way to get them, the ones that were left behind. Now we'll bring those manufacturing jobs back because, we've seen the shows and the movies and we've read about it, like back in the 60s and 70s, people were working those manufacturing jobs and that was a good paying job and it provided for the household and the middle class was big then. Okay, there is definitely a gap now. We can see those gaps and those changes now, okay? So what I found interesting was the article says, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick promised Americans will be the ones screwing in little screws to make iPhones. Okay, while the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says the fired federal workers will give the U.S. labor what we need for new manufacturing. Okay, I'll read that again. It says, fired federal workers will give the U.S. the labor that we need for new manufacturing. Okay. So, sir, do you really think that a man or woman that was once working a federal job, that got up every morning, went to an office, an air-conditioned office, he was probably doing data analysis on his computer or on her computer. Do you really think these people, okay, that had this job, they had good benefits, a good federal job benefits, they had all that good stuff, okay? Do you really think that now they're going to be like, man, I'm so glad I was fired so that I could go work a manufacturing job making close to minimum wage, doing something that I probably don't really want to do, but no, I have to do because you forced me into doing it, because you fired me so that I could go work a manufacturing job. What on earth? What on earth? Who wants to work a minimum wage job? Who wants to work a manufacturing job for little or no pay? Do you know what I mean? Let's be real. I swear these people, I don't know what world they're living in, Trump and his administration, but they're living in this totally jacked up world, okay? The one that we're not living in, the alternate reality, okay? And of course, it went on to say that economists and trade experts are not convinced that this will work. No duh. I don't think it will work, no crap, Sherlock. If y'all have a chance to go and read this article, of course, I'll put a link in the description of this. Go ahead and read it. It's a really good article. I mean, I learned some stuff that I didn't know before, and some stuff that I actually thought, it kind of reinforced those thoughts of what I was thinking. Okay, so back to this, with the manufacturing jobs, okay? So if we're being real, Gen Zers, they're not really interested in this jobs, okay? They're used to a different type of life, and Gen Zers are the generation below me, after me, after me. Okay, they're used to a different type of life, okay? They're used to social media, that microwave quick, let's get rich quick, any means necessary with social media, let's do it this way. That's the lifestyle they're used to. Gen Zers aren't trying to hurry up and go work in a factory, okay? A lot of the Gen Zers now, the young ones, they're pretty smart. They grew up in an age of technology. They're really, really smart, and they're good with computers. They're good with engineering. They're really intelligent with stuff like that. So that's what their focus is. They're not used to the manual labor. They barely played outside. Okay. Oh, I'm getting hot. Okay. They barely played outside. So to imagine, oh, that's to cool off. Okay. So imagine seeing them trying to say, oh, we're going to go out, we're going to go do these manufacturing jobs and do manual labor, when that's not something that they're used to. Okay, so that's really not happening. Their focus is mostly on, that social networking type of life with their technology. They're starting businesses, they're starting tech companies. Gen Zers, they're not really trying to go to the factory. Okay. That's not, crossing their minds. So I think where the article mentioned a disconnect, and that they're not considering is the generational gap. Okay. Of course, there's the silent generation and the boomers. They were definitely in the factories. That was their life. That was like middle class life. Okay. You work at yay. If you weren't going to go get an education, you better go get you a factory job, like that type of stuff. I've seen that on TV. Okay, you go get you a little factory job or something, and you work like a manufacturing job, whatever, and you could make a decent pay. Life has changed since then. With that generation. So starting with, even some Gen Xers, they were in there too, but I think starting with the Gen Xers of the late 80s, and moving on to the millennials, and then of course the Gen Zers, those Americans, they're not used to factory life, they barely consider any of that. Until recently, where, Amazon had come to different places. I see a lot of factories started opening, Amazon warehouses started opening, and they were offering really good benefits and really good pay. And then you see the young people heading towards that. So other than when Amazon came back with those warehouses, before that, no one was really checking for that manufacturing, factory life, warehouse life. No one was really checking for that, okay? And they still really aren't, but they were grateful and happy that Amazon were offering, because I was like, whoa, Amazon is offering that much, for their warehouses. So those are the type of stuff that the next generation is looking at. That's the warehouse, factory, manufacturing. Those type of jobs are still not at the very top of their list. Manual labor is just not it for, my generation and the generation under us. We're just, behind us. This is not it, okay? So I think this is what Biden was actually saying about immigration, playing a role in these jobs. And if you're trying to keep these jobs in the U.S., because those were the people that were willing to work these jobs, right? If you're going to consider these minimum wage paying jobs, if we're going to keep it real, it's the immigrants that were willing to work those jobs because they were minimum wage to put, food in their on their family's table and all that stuff. So there's definitely a disconnect. There's definitely a gap. But I thought that this was interesting that, we're stressing manufacturing. Well, the Trump administration is stressing manufacturing, but the truth of the matter is we do have so many manufacturing jobs here. It's just Americans aren't taking it, So that's something really to just consider. Like, what are we really being, if we think about what we're being told and we actually do, because like I said, I didn't even do the research. I was like, yeah, I guess we need manufacturing jobs to stay here to help. But at the same time, the way you're going about doing it is wrong. Well, even so, we have all these jobs. Why aren't people taking them? 500,000 jobs, 500,000 jobs. That's a lot of jobs. But again, are we willing to do it? I've never worked in a manufacturing factory or whatever. And, unless the pay is good, I don't see myself doing that unless the pay is really, really good. And it's got to be really good for me to be like, okay, I'm going to go there and work that job. And we know that manufacturing jobs, they really are. It's like minimum wage, So when this guy says, oh, we're going to, who was it? Let me go back up in my little notes to see who said that. The Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, when he said that, come on, sir. Stop it. Oh, we're going to be the ones screwing in the screws to make high phones. Are you going to pay? Because, Americans want to get paid. This next generation, they know their rights, okay? And they know their worth, okay? They're not going to take just anything. So that's something to, consider. So I thought that was interesting. Anyways, we'll move on from that. Speaking of that, I was scrolling through, my articles, trying to, see some good stuff in the news, read some good stuff. And of course, sometimes it's just hard to find really good stuff, because everything, again, is so politically based and so politically charged. So I did see, I saw an article, and it was talking about, because the article caught my attention because it was talking about the district court judges not their restriction. They were going to get a restriction, and it's something that they've been trying to pass, and I guess the House actually passed it. So it stated that, there's a bill now passed restricting district court judges from being able to pass nationwide injunctions, okay? So, and this was done because they kept blocking Trump's efforts with all of these orders that he had out. Some of them were so crazy, they would put an injunction out to block it, So I guess Trump didn't like that. So, of course, the House, which is apparently now mostly Republican-led, they passed a bill stating that, these judges are now restricted from passing an injunction on Trump's orders, okay? So these judges won't have much more power to do that anymore, which is just crazy. I'm just like, so because you didn't like something, you kind of say, oh, House, I need you to pass this and make this happen so that I can, do what I want, So everything is really about him. That's all I was thinking. I was like, it's all about you. Everything is about you. You just want everything your way all the time. And sometimes you can't have your way even if you're the president, you can't have your way all the time. And sometimes think about the people. You're not thinking about anybody else but yourself. I want this. I want this. And then you say it's for the people. And those people actually believe you, So anyways, back to this. I'm getting all up in my feelings. But I was like, he really wants to be like a dictator. So as I was going through that, and I was thinking to myself, this is crazy. So I'm scrolling through it, and then another article caught my attention, and the article stated former Congressman, Jim Clyburn, held a town hall in South Carolina, stating that he praised that the U.S. will not allow itself to go the way of Germany in the 1930s, okay? Okay, so he emphasized that Democrats are limited in what they can do in the minority, and they are the minority in Congress. So FYI, I don't really consider myself a Democrat. I don't consider myself a Republican. I consider myself independent, okay? I did vote Democrat, like a straight Democratic ticket on last election, to avoid what is happening now, or what I thought it was going to be, me avoiding what's happening now. So I did do that, but other than that, I definitely try to be independent, because there's views I see from all different sides. I can see different views, and if I don't agree with someone or something, just because you're a Democrat, I'm not going to agree with you. If I don't agree with something, or if I agree with something, just because you're a Republican, I'm not going to go, oh, well, even though I agree you're a Republican, so I stay independent so I can see the big picture. I can see both sides. And, everybody have their own reason why they're specifically Democrat or why they're specifically Republican, but that's just how I feel about that. Okay, so in the article, he urged attendees to speak out and vote to tip the scale and balance, okay, of power, because right now to me, there doesn't seem to be much checks and balances going on. It just seemed like Trump just says whatever and does whatever and it happens. Okay, just like with the situation with, I don't like what the judges are saying. Okay, so now I'm going to pass a bill so they can't tell me nothing. Like, who does that? Trump. Okay. Clyburn expressed concerns about the Trump administration's disregard for the Constitution, and asked the crowd to pray that the U.S. will not allow itself to go the way of Germany in the 1930s. Okay. So he reflected on his history of civil rights activism and his fear over the current political climate, stating that he believes the current Supreme Court would not exonerate him for the actions that he took during the Civil War movement. Okay, so, and this is a quote from the article. It says, "I don't think they would exonerate me for wanting to get out of the back of the bus. Okay, for wanting to be able to walk into a 5 and dime store and spend my money at a lunch counter." Okay, so he was arrested, back then, lots of the civil rights movements, lots of riots, lots of inspired protests, rightfully. I'm where I'm at today, and I'm able to talk to you today like this and be able to, do everything freely because of people like that, decided that they had to fight for their rights to be in the U.S. and live how they want to live and not be treated like second-class citizen. And, he got thrown in jail for that, So he's saying, he don't feel he'll be exonerated by, the Supreme Court that are now under Trump. And even if they did, Trump would figure out a way to stop that, because that's what he does for everything that he don't like. And of course, he would consider it DEI. Okay? Okay. So, to think that, this was like just in the 60s that all of this happened. Um, but anyways, he's right that, what happened in Germany with the Nazis murdering millions of Jewish people, we're thinking, hey, this couldn't happen today, but look at what's going on. People in other countries really didn't know what's going on. And, back then, now, people may have an idea because of, technology, social media, or whatever. They know what's going on, but it seems like, but we know what's going on and we're still not doing, like, we're able to do things to stop it and we're still not, because I think we're so selfish, honestly. Even the people who we want to change, but then we're so selfish, we don't want to do anything to enact those changes, We're just thinking of ourselves, well, I got to make sure my kids can eat. I got food on my table, job this, but we don't actually, like, we're not actually thinking about the masses and how things will impact the masses, okay? So, yeah. Anyways, okay, so I was thinking how we are technologically advanced now, okay? With some of the things, with being able to get information out to people, if anything greater were to happen from what's going on, we are more technologically advanced and to be able to do that. But it seems like we're not using our heads, we're not using our brains, and a lot of us, we're pretending like we're on the side of good, but we're still filled with so much hate. And when I say us, I'm not even talking about, I'm talking about us people that live here that pretend to love but really don't. They still have this hate in their heart for whatever reason, for Black people, for Jewish people, for Hispanic people, for whatever. They have this hate in their heart and they really do feel like they're better, and they do think that they're the superior race, and that we're nothing. They have this hate in their heart. So because of that, even though we're more advanced technologically, we're not more advanced up here, we're not more advanced in here, and you think that would change, but it really hasn't changed. So some of the same mistakes of the past are happening now, and we can see them happen again. So speaking of the Nazis and what they did to the Jewish people, could it repeat? Could history repeat itself? With all the hate? Okay. So I made a note. I was thinking, because I watched a show called The Handmaid's Tale, and that show, it's just a TV show, but honestly, it shows the progression of how people didn't really take things seriously when stuff was going on, how certain situation happened and no one said anything and they just let stuff go until all of a sudden, bam, like they start bringing on bigger changes. They start like, hey, we're going to cut off the bank accounts of all these women. So let's cut off them financially. Well, all around the world, and it happened all at once. So what can you do when you're cut off financially? Oh, let's put all these people in place that blocks you and they're armed. That way you can't go nowhere. You're trying to leave. You're like, oh, I see something happening. Let me leave. Like, it sounds crazy, but sometimes, what's the saying go? And I can never get the saying right. Fiction is crazier than reality is crazier than fiction. Sometimes things are crazier. Fiction is crazier. I don't even, I'm trying to get the saying right. Fiction can be, sometimes reality can be crazier than fiction, right? Like, you're just like, man, that's not going to happen. We didn't think Trump was going to happen. We didn't think that was going to happen again, but it did. Certain things aren't going to happen, but it did. So, and that show kind of shows, like the beginning, the first couple episodes kind of showed like how it happened without people even thinking like it was going to mess with them. Like, it's just little things were happening here and there, and you're like, oh, that's stupid. Like, oh, we're gonna take DEI. We're gonna shut down this library that's, this library for Black people, or we're gonna take the books from DEI. We're gonna slowly do these things, these little things, and it's little things where you're just like, you protest and you that's some bull, you're like me, you go on the internet and you talk, that's some bull, but you know, nothing, you don't do nothing. And then all of a sudden, everything is wiped, everything is done, and all of a sudden, bam, something bigger and greater. Because while we're, you know, busy going on with our life, and while we're distracted doing something else, they're busy planning other things. While we're distracted going, that's some bull over DI. Well, there's lining up people, you know. I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theorist, so that's coming into this as well. But you know, anything can happen. So I'm ready to finish watching my Handmaid's Tale. I haven't started watching that last season yet, so I'm prepared to watch that last season. And I know it's going to be good, because that was one good show, but it really make you think. So of course, you know, prayer is needed. Yes, sir. Prayer is needed. But we need to take action too, because even the Bible says, you know, we can hope and pray and we can do all that, but faith without works is dead. You know, we don't put in any type of effort or work to get things done, nothing is going to get done, and it's dead. Nothing is going to happen, you know. And so what are we really doing? Okay. But okay, so my last topic is and it's an interesting one. I saw it, and of course I was like, oh my gosh, is this what's happening to me? And it may not be what's happening to me. Okay, I'm just very dramatic. Okay, I saw as I was doing my scrolling, I saw something that says studies in mice suggest surprising link between nose picking and Alzheimer's. So I'm like, oh Lord, you know, what's going on? So the study published in 2022 found a potential link between nose picking and an increased risk of developing dementia. And I'm so scared of dementia, y'all, because my brain is just like, I forget everything. And like when I say everything. And I don't know, like lately I've just been forgetting everything. If you ask me what's 1 + 1, I'd probably say 3 and be like, oh crap. See, forget everything. I forgot how to say crap. And so it's like, I just forgot how to add, you know, like I've been forgetting stuff. Like it's really, really, it's real, you know, and I feel like it's something else because of my young age. Like, you know, there's people older than me, like my grandma who remembers a lot, or my grandfather who remembers a lot, you know, they're older yet they still remember stuff. So I'm just like, golly. And so it says, the researchers found that a bacterium called chlamydia, pneumoniae, I hope I'm saying that right, but it's basically partly spelled like pneumonia, or maybe that's the right way to spell pneumonia. Maybe. Can travel up the olfactory nerve from the nasal cavity to the brain. And when there is damage to the nasal tissue, the infection can worsen, okay? This led to increased deposit of the amyloid beta protein in the mouse's brain, which is associated with Alzheimer's disease, okay? Because this was tested on mouse, you know, rats, mouse, okay? While the findings are based on mice and needs to be confirmed in humans, the researchers suggest that nose picking and plucking nose hairs may not be a good idea due to the potential damage to the protective nasal tissues. Yeah, we kind of figured. Okay. Because I've actually like picked my nose before and it bled, and I was like, what happened? I was just picking a booger, because I was like, it was really tickling, like really, really tickling. And I was like, what's going on? It was hard. I know this is gross, but you know, and I picked it, and all of a sudden my nose bleeds. I was like, well, what the heck, you know? And of course it says once you get over 65, your risk of Alzheimer's go up. And this study is part of an ongoing effort to understand the cause of the Alzheimer's disease, okay? And which is a complex disease, okay? And Alzheimer's is a complex condition because like I said, I've been more curious lately as I'm starting to get older and losing my memory. Okay, I'm scared. Okay, I don't want to get Alzheimer's, not yet. And I keep thinking, you know, well, maybe me not remembering stuff is due to menopause, and I'm hoping that's just it for now. And, you know, maybe I can do little things to, you know, build back up my memory, because when I tell you my memory is shot, there's certain things I don't even want to do I don't even want to do because my memory is so bad. Things I want to do, and I'm just like, I can't even do it because I know that I don't have the capabilities right now because I can't remember jack, Even for this, I have to write stuff down because I was like, I have that to say, but I don't even know what I'm going to say. So I write everything down so that way I can cross-check it and cross-reference what I meant to say versus and sometimes I say stuff that I didn't even mean to say. So I was like, well, let me look at what I have to say and it's really because of my bad memory because it never used to be this bad. So I literally have to write everything down that I want to say to make sure I get, points. I get my points across. And so, knock on wood, it's not Alzheimer's. I rebuke that spirit, okay? I don't want it. So the article did mention that it is estimated that 9 out of 10 people pick their nose, okay? And that other species does it too, not just humans, okay? So let's keep it real. We know people do it. Some people like to pretend like they don't, like they don't be at home picking and flicking. Like, we know you do. We know you pick your nose. But at the end of the day, I would hate for that to be a contributor in me not remembering stuff, or it's like I have to think twice now, like I saw a booger earlier and I was like, shoot, I may not want to touch that. So I did the thing where you touch your nose to one side, and because I was like, well, shoot, I gotta calm down now. Gotta make sure I don't put anything up my nose. I don't want it to lead to Alzheimer's. I mean, I'm laughing, but it's serious because when I saw this, I was like, oh my gosh. So FYI to y'all out there, careful on the nose picking, and plucking the hairs, because it may lead to dementia one day, or early dementia. I don't know. They still have to do some more research in humans, but fingers crossed, okay? But that's all I have to share with y'all for now. I hope y'all enjoyed my podcast. Thank y'all for joining me, and come back and listen again. Listen, watch, do whatever. Just come on back. Bye.